Welcome friends, LostScarf here, and it's time for the complete guide to fighting Drask. Drask is the next big hurdle people face after the Ember main, and it can be a pain in the ass. As always, these guides are more geared towards solo play. We will talk about team play as well, but it's more about the solo fighting here, because sometimes you gotta fight things alone, or you're fighting things alone just because you want to see if you can. That's what this guide's gonna be for. And it's also geared towards being the first times you're fighting the Drask. So it's gonna be more just, what do you have right after you've defeated the Scrave and the Ember main, and the Drask is what's left before you can move on to the next island. So that's what we're doing here. Now in this guide we're going to go over Drask in general, attack range and patterns, tips and tells, loadout for facing Drask, how to fight Drask with each weapon from best to worst, and facing Drask as a team. And one of the most useful things about this guide is because you'll understand how to fight Drask so well, you'll be able to farm them often because Drask actually gives the best armor you'll have up until the Under Keys, and it has no weaknesses. All the other armors on the Under Keys has resistance weaknesses, except for this one, so that's pretty dang nice. Drask, and attack range and patterns. Drask is a big tanky shock behemoth. It's actually going to be the first shock behemoth you face, which is a problem since you won't have any shock resistance, so if you get hit with the lightning attacks, that's going to hurt like heck. It has a lot of HP and it really throws its weight around as it tries to kill you. It has a large tail that takes up about a third of its size, so cutting that off is huge. Now, what does shock do? Shock will affect your ability to use items and the Aether Vent, so keep that in mind. When you get shocked, you can't do as much as you'd like to do, and you want to get that time to run out so you can do stuff again. Now when it comes to Drask's attacks, Drask has 4 frontal attacks. It has a swipe with the left and the right claw, a charge forward to go hit you, and then Lightning Breath. Keep in mind, the enraged version of Lightning Breath, it'll move back to do a triple Lightning Breath, which can destroy you, so be careful of that. Luckily you can roll through it. Now it has 2 body attacks, a body slide, that's what I'm going to call it, where it shifts its weight and just hits you from the side, and a 180-degree body slam. This can only be done after it loses its tail, and it will do like a little hop, and then it'll do a big hop in a 180-degree angle. That little hop can hurt you, the big one will hurt you a lot more. Then it has 2 tail attacks. It has a 180-degree tail whip attack, and a 360-degree tail spin, which only happens when it's enraged. Lastly, the enrage, when it goes into it and out of it, can also hurt you as well, so keep an eye out for those as well. Now the attack range and patterns here, at long to mid range, Drask will always go for the Lightning Breath, so watch out for that. Now at mid to close range, Drask will go for the Lightning Breath or to charge at you. But when you're close in front of Drask's face, Drask will go for the frontal attacks mentioned earlier, or the tail whip. Now, once you are able to read the tells of the Drask, you'll be able to dodge all these moves appropriately. But when you're attacking Drask from the side and the rear, Drask will go for the body slide or the tail whip. Once the tail is cut off, then it'll go for body slam and body slide, since there's no tail to whip you with anymore. And in rage form, all the attacks are possible, but if you're directly in front, it will go for a triple lightning attack, and the tailspin can go from anywhere, and it can hurt you pretty bad. Now when it comes to the patterns, it's a fairly random beast because it has so many attacks, but at close range, Drask will never ever do the same attack twice. Remember that. So Drask will tail whip from anywhere, but likely you'll be on the backside of Drask after that, and it'll go for the body slide because that's the only other possible attack it can do. And when the tail's gone, Drask only has body slide and body slam. So once that happens, if you're fighting it from the rear, it'll do the body slide or the body slam, and then it'll do the other one after, and it will alternate between the two. So if you stay behind Drask the entire fight, you'll have to deal with those 2 attacks the whole time. Tips and tells against Drask. First up, the tips. Now, you want to quickly get the Drask when approaching or hide at the start because it will always go for Lightning Breath when it sees you. That is something dangerous to deal with, so you're going to have to roll through it if you can't hide anywhere. And if you approach it when it's in rage, it will go for the triple, which is even more dangerous, so be careful of that. Next tip, you want to cut off the tail ASAP. This will reduce Drask combat effectiveness very well, and will make it start using Body Slam, which makes it more predictable. Something really useful to know is the tail is outside of the enrage aura whenever Drask enters and leaves it, so you can just wail on the tail while it's busy doing that. When it comes to enrage itself, when it starts up, you'll see lightning around Drask. That's an easy way to know what's happening. And when Drask leaves enraged, it stops and just slowly hits the ground, so that'll give you plenty of time to do some punishing. Something very important to know for everyone but Chainblades, you can roll through every single Drask attack. That's very useful. When it comes to Chainblades, because you can't roll, you gotta just quickly dash around. Something very useful though is because how fast the dash is, Chainblades can get around Lightning Breath pretty quickly. Something very important is, Drask's face is very fragile. It will break very quickly, so
If you need to do an interrupt, or you just want that piece because you need the piece for armor or whatever, it breaks pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And lastly, Drask roars pretty often, giving you plenty of chances to get some free damage. It's pretty nice. And now for the tells. The idea here is to tell you what kind of body language to look out for so you know what's coming so you can dodge it. So when it comes to the charging attack before they do it, Drask will quickly hop on all 4 feet and then it'll run forward at you. So remember that. When it looks like it's hopping, it's going to go for that, when it's hopping straight. Now for the swipe, it'll just lift the claw it's going to use back before it goes forward with it. For body slide, Drask actually goes stiff, looks in the direction it's going to hit, and then slide over there. For tail whip, Drask will look away for a moment, and then it'll look at you as it whips its tail around. The way it was looking is where the tail's going to come from. For tail spin, this one's very dangerous because it's very fast. Drask gets low and straightens its body out, and then it'll spin very quickly. This one, it's going to come very fast, so you have to watch out for it, but it only happens during enrage. Now the body slam, Drask at the front will do a little hop to the side and do a near 180 degree turn as it jumps over to slide at you if you're behind it. So that will make it very slow and very predictable and easy to hit if you see it coming. And lastly, lightning breath should be pretty obvious. Lightning's coming out of its mouth. It's going to hit you with that, so be careful. But when it comes to the triple lightning, it's going to run back a little bit before it does it, so you just got to rush over there. Loadout against Drask. Now, keeping in mind that Drask can be the first shock behemoth you face, you won't have any shock resistance, but you might have some cells, which will be useful to have for this fight. Now, Embermane and Scrave both have shock weaknesses, so you're not going to use those armors. Your best armor of choice is going to be the Sharog armor, which gives you a lot of max HP, and weapon charge, which would be very helpful with most of the weapons. When it comes to the cells, I would recommend part-breaking cells for sword, chain blades, and pike to get that tail off sooner, and just to break all the parts. For hammer and axe, I'd say stagger focus cells. That'll really help you with staggering the Drask and just beating it to hell. I suggest the Scar Lantern for the extra protection from the shield. It's just always useful because sometimes you get caught in a point where you can't roll or dash, and that shield can save you. And lastly, when it comes to tonics, you'll want Stamina and Bulwark to be safe for all of them, but the last tonic can be Frenzy or Blitz for damage focus, or Assault Tonic for stagger focus. Now here's weapons versus Drask. Now here's my tier list for the weapons, and it is Sword and Chain Blades are the best, Axe and Pike are pretty good, and Hammer is okay against the Drask. My reasons for this is the Sword is able to just dodge very well and just do a lot of punishing attacks, and cut that tail out very quickly, and it can stagger as well. That's a lot of bonuses there. Sword can do a lot of work. Chain Blades cannot stagger, but it can cut off the tail quickly and just do a lot of punishment and dodge around quickly. Axe is able to take off the tail quickly and just do a lot of stagger damage, which is just the best of both worlds. Axe is pretty good. It is slow, so it's not as good. The Pike, same thing. It can do a lot of damage to the Drask. It can take off the tail eventually, just do a lot of punishing, and that makes it very effective. And the Hammer, it can stagger, but it's just not as good because it can only stagger. You can't take out the tail, so you gotta deal with a bunch of just the Drask combat effectiveness. So now going more in depth. So the Sword versus the Drask is the best of everything because you can do stagger damage and you can cut off the tail very quickly because you get the cutting bonus. Once you understand Drask's body language and their tells and attack patterns, this is a very easy fight for you. Run up to Drask's rear and just focus the tail. It's going to do tail whips and body slides. Just dodge those and just beat it up. Just keep rolling through, attacking the tail, keep up on it. Eventually it'll cut the tail off. That'll make life very easy. After that, it's extremely predictable because you can only do body slide and body slam. Just keep beating up on the rear and you'll eventually kill it that way. Make sure the majority of your attacks though are light attacks so that you have enough stamina to roll around or run around when needed. But you only really need to worry about running around when Drask has its in-rage for the triple lightning because you don't want to deal with that at all. But you can roll through all 3 lightning attacks if you need to. And of course you want to break the face so you can get that part from the Drask, and you can just roll through the swipes and charges when needed. But what's also great is you can stagger Drask pretty effectively with the Sword, but eventually the threshold will get too high, so keep that in mind as you're going for the face. Now when it comes to Chain Blades versus the Drask, it's going to be just like Swords, except you can't stagger and you can't roll through attacks. You have to dash around them. So what you're going to do is you're going to run over to the tail, beat the crap out of the tail until you cut it off. You're going to be paying attention to the Drask body language, so you know it's going to go for the body slide and when it goes for the tail whip. A great thing is when it's in rage and trying to do lightning attacks, you can quickly dash to the side of the Drask so you don't have to get hit by that, so that's good. But that's why you're going to want to do a lot of light attacks, so you have the stamina necessary to do a bunch of dashes, so that's not a problem at all. Now once the tail is gone, all you got to worry about is the body slides and the body slam, which is easy to predict. You just beat it to death from behind and you're going to be good. That's really it. Unfortunately, of course, like I said, you can't stagger, but the face is very easy to break, so just focus on it when you're doing counterattacks, and you'll take out that face very fast. Now, the Axe versus Drask is a pretty fun time, but it is a bit slow, and that's really what brings it down under Sword and Chain Blades, because you get the best of both worlds. You get cutting and stagger, and you can do both very strongly. You're just very slow in doing it. So what you want to do at the start is, you want to rush Drask's face and stagger them. So you're going to be dodging some attacks, you're going to be hitting the face a bunch. Thanks to roll, it'll be an easy time, and then you knock it out. Once it's knocked out, run over and focus that tail. That tail will come off in 2 or 3 staggers, and once that's gone, the Drask becomes way more predictable for massive damage. Because when it goes for the body slam, that gives you enough time once you position yourself correctly to hit it with the full 3 charge, and that's really nice. You can do that repeatedly, and eventually you'll kill the Drask. It's just that you're not as fast, which can get you a bit open for getting attacked, especially when you're not good at predicting the Drask at first. But fortunately, because of just how strong the axe can be and how much stagger you can just take out the Drask from any angle. You just gotta make sure you're paying attention to the body language and you're rolling very well and not using up all your stamina. And of course, maintain some stamina for those rolls and for running if you need to get out of the range of a lightning attack. Now, Pike vs Drask is a little more difficult than the previous 3 weapons because you don't get the slashing bonus against tails, but you do have wound damage, which does make up for it. So you're going to run over and get behind the Drask, go for the tail, hit it a bunch of times. Be careful at your combos so you don't get too overcommitted so that you can dash through the tail whips and the body slides so you don't get hurt that way. And build up meter for your bullets. You're going to start shooting the tail, you're going to shoot the body. Do whatever parts are of course getting hurt with a wounded, so you can just break parts off, which will make life a lot easier. I wouldn't say focus the tail with your bullets unless the Drask is going through rage, because of course when it goes in rage it's going to stand there. And when it gets out of rage, it'll stand there as well. Or doing counter shots, dodging an attack and then shooting the tail. Because if you timed it incorrectly, because Drask moves around so much, you'll be missing the tail a lot, which will make it very regretful that you're going for the tail. But when you get good predictive shots on the tail, you'll break it off pretty quickly, and then of course it's easy peasy from there. You're just going to be focusing the Drask from the back, beating it up back there, predicting the body slide and the body slam, and just keep beating it up, building up bullets, and shooting those bullets on the other parts of the Drask to break those off so that you just get more parts to pick up. Of course, as always, you want to make sure you're dodging through the attacks and avoiding the lightning, so maintain some stamina for that. Hammer vs Drask is a pretty tough time. The reason for this is you can't cut off the tail, which makes the Drask very effective against you. So you gotta worry about the tail whip, you gotta worry about the tail spin, you gotta worry about the body slide, and that'll all be difficult because that body slide is a lot more effective when the tail is on. You know, you're going to be focusing the front a lot because you're going to be doing stagger damage against the Drask. You're going to be punishing it after you do that. The first staggers are going to be easy, but eventually the threshold is going to get higher and higher. It's going to be more difficult to deal with. You're going to want to unleash as many Aether Charge combos on Drask as possible early in the fight. That way it doesn't have as much HP when the threshold gets so high. Once the threshold is too high though, you're going to have to rely on attacking and predicting attacks and rolling through them so to finish off Drask. It's doable, but just not as easy as the other weapons, and it's going to be a long slug of a fight. As with the others, make sure you're not in front of the Drask for long, so you don't get hit with the lightning blast. Facing Drask as a team. Now with so many targets, the Drask becomes less predictable. Obviously when you're doing solo, you know exactly who it's going for, so you're able to predict and do moves accordingly. Now when it comes to a team, here's my quick advice. Rush the face, stagger the Drask. Once it's knocked out, go to the tail and beat the crap out of the tail until you break it off. Cycle between these two states until the tail's cut off. Once it's off, the Drask is way more predictable now. And once you get to a point where the threshold on stagger is just too high, you're not able to knock it out anymore, go for the rear. Whittle it down from the rear, keep hitting it as a team from the rear until it dies, and then you're done. Good job. In conclusion, Drask is a lightning tank, but a very predictable one. Because of its large amount of HP, your patience will be tested as you beat it from the rear, but once you have the moves down, it's just a matter of time until you dismantle the Drask. As always, if you think there's more to be said, please say so in the comments. I've covered everything I can think of, but there's always a chance I've missed something. Comments will be helpful for everyone, it makes the guide more complete, and that's good. That's very good. Now, of course, which Behemoth do you think should be the next target? What should be the next guide for? Who's the next hurdle? That's always important to consider, so let me know. And of course, it'd be helpful to spread the guide around. The more people understand how to fight Drask, the better times people will have, because Drask can be frustrating for some people, so if they find an easier way to handle the Drask, it'll just make them happier and have more fun with the game. And the more people having fun playing Dauntless, the better Dauntless will be, because it'll have more people paying into it or playing into it, and then it can just get bigger and more people will enjoy it. So that right there is the guide. I had fun making it, I hope you had fun watching and learning from it, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and good luck with your hunt.